wrote, quote, "The U.S. Justice Department and the FBI have targeted American Muslims in an abusive counterterrorism sting operation based on religious and ethnic identity." The 214-page report synthesized 27 federal terrorism cases from initiation of the investigations to the sentencing and post-conviction conditions of confinement. Andrea Brasco, Deputy Director of the Human Rights Watch and co-author of this report, said, quote, "Americans have been told that their government is keeping them safe by preventing and prosecuting terrorism inside the United States. But take a closer look and you realize that many of the people who would never have committed a crime if not for law enforcement encouraging, pressuring, and sometimes even paying them to commit terrorist acts." Brasco pointed out that it has been reported in the news, mainstream and alternative, reports of FBI terrorists who were arrested by the agency prior to allegedly carrying out their destructive and potentially deadly schemes. But the report from the Human Rights Watch says, quote, "In some cases, the FBI may have created these terrorists out of law-abiding individuals by suggesting the idea of taking terrorist action and encouraging the target to act. Shockingly, 18% of the 494 cases reviewed stated that related to terrorism were the thwarted plots not thwarted, but they were based on material support charges. See, that's different than having someone actually commit a crime. Now you're basing it on speculation because they happen to have the materials in order to commit a crime. This is a broad category expanded further by the 2001 Patriot Act, which permits prosecutors to pursue charges with tenuous connections to a terrorist act or a group, whether or not they have actual evidence to back that up. Along with legitimate terrorists, because there's a plethora of targeted people who do not appear to have been involved in terrorist plotting or financing at the time the government began their investigation. And many of these cases involve due process violations and abusive conditions of confinement that have resulted in excessively long prison sentences. With 50% of convictions stemming from informant-based intelligence, it appears that anonymous accusers are the foundation by which the FBI conducts their sting operations and on their law-abiding citizens. And speaking of being overly sensitive, Chris Roberts, a researcher who specializes in the security of commercial airplanes, was barred from a United Airlines flight Saturday, 3 days after he joked about tweeted on a midnight flight about hacking a key communication system of the airplane that he was in. When the flight arrived in New York, Roberts was greeted by the FBI. What a coinkydink. They invited him into a back room, and some of that one-on-one interrogation ensued, resulting in Roberts' iPad and MacBook being confiscated. And that's not all, folks, because after Roberts braved being molested by the TSA on another flight, he was greeted by members of the United Corporate Security who stopped him from boarding his flight. Roberts was ambiguous and told the security guards he wanted to know why was he being stopped by getting on this flight. And they said they would inform him by mail for the reason why they were doing this within the next 2 weeks. But for now, no flying. United, the unfriendly skies. Isn't this amazing? Robert's lawyers are members of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and they are pissed. The EFF said that the FBI and United had a knee-jerk reaction which could create a chilling effect in the legitimate cybersecurity research community. But is this a case of nanny state paranoia coupled with a tasteless joke made by a cybersecurity expert? Should people be afraid that their sardonic tweets fly faster than a 747 and, as a result, it violates their constitutional rights because a private corporation has to kind of stick up for themselves, right? Especially on social media. And since when did the FBI work as a private mafia-esque thug? Oh, wait, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. They do work for private sector corporations who handle having their flaws announced on social media, because that's exactly what happened. This gentleman made a tweet, and all of a sudden he's barred from any United flight. Think about that. What you say on social media is not just being used in criminal evidence against you by the police or law enforcement agencies in the federal government, but a private corporation can get a hold of one of your tweets and then just decide they don't want to service you anymore. They don't want you to ride their flight. Keep in mind that Roberts is a cybersecurity expert. Keep in mind that he is part of the Black Hat Conference, and he talks extensively on vulnerabilities in cybersecurity issues, and that his tweet was about doing his job, exposing the vulnerabilities. United doesn't want people to understand that they have those vulnerabilities. They don't even want it in your mind when you are paying for that flight or braving the TSA or standing in line at the gate hours waiting. They want you to pay for your flight. If you're not paying for the flight, they're not making any money. And if a cybersecurity expert happens to take liberties with his First Amendment right to free speech in this country and go on social media and maybe point that out for some of his followers on Twitter, well, heck, yeah, we got to make sure that that guy doesn't fly. He doesn't fly for us. He doesn't fly for anyone. Is this the world that we want to live in, folks? Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in that kind of world. I don't want to live in a world where not only do they have the right to vote with their dollars and the right to religious freedom, but now they have the right to service whoever they want. I'll see you guys on the other side.
Nothing ever could, yeah. Oh, I'll keep holding on. I'll keep holding on. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life you were only waiting for this moment to arise. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. I don't know about you, but I'm still wondering why the U.S. Surgeon General teamed up with Elmo last week to produce a public service announcement about the importance of vaccines. And who wrote that new Elmo vaccine theme song? Good job. Sarcasm. Heavy on the sarcasm. Anyway. This 30-second promo, paid for by the gracious taxpayers of the United States of America, talks about how getting all of your vaccinations on time will help everyone stay healthy. And perhaps by coincidence, the PSA came hours after California health authorities declared the measles outbreak that began in Disneyland several months ago and reinvigorated national debate about vaccinations. Remember? Well, it's over, okay? California has declared the measles vaccine scare over. Yay! The outbreak resulted in 147 diagnoses across the country, and nobody died. Way to go. Okay. So you know it's bad when a cop is praised for not shooting a suspect. And in Ohio, this is exactly what happened. The media is ecstatic about this new Richmond officer, Jesse Kidder, who refused to shoot a charging suspect even as he begged for the officer to take his life. Kidder decided not to fire on the man accused of a double murder who was pleading for him to follow through with his suicide by cop plan. That's what Kidder is supposed to do, folks. That's his job. He's supposed to not shoot the suspect, even if he catches the guy in the act, which I'm not saying that's the case here. But the police have a job, and their job is to locate a suspect and bring them into the precinct for detainment and questioning. That's it. So Kidder wants accolades for doing what he's supposed to do? I'm confused as to why we have to do this. Are these not grown men? Just asking a question. Why do police think that shooting suspects is an option anyway, above doing what they are hired to do? Like I said, bring the suspect into the police station for questioning. Like a real American hero. Kidder told the press, quote, "Law enforcement officers all across the nation have to deal with split-second decisions that mean life or death. I wanted to be absolutely sure before I used deadly force." Okay. Let's stop right here for a second. The fact that deadly force is one of the maybe top 5 options that a police officer has in detaining a suspect is the problem, Mr. Kidder. We are absolutely grateful that you are absolutely sure before using deadly force. We're just concerned that that's one of your top 5 options, okay? And I have a question for you, Mr. Kidder. Why was deadly force even an option to you, personally, above using your handcuffs and putting the suspect into your patrol car? Really, I'd like an answer. occupycorporatism@gmail.com. Email me. All right. Because let me see if I can speculate on this. It must be because the suspect was allegedly on multiple substances and refused to put his hands up when you said, "Mr. Police Officer says, put your hands up." But still, why aren't you considering using your handcuffs, Mr. Kidder? We know what you guys do with a taser gun. You go ahead and shoot him anyway. So I'm not even going to suggest you tase him. Try using your handcuffs. This entire back-assward scene is being called a suicide by cop, perhaps because Kidder is a former Marine who served 2 tours in Iraq and received a Purple Heart. Wow. 2 tours in Iraq, huh? There are guys over there for 7, 8, 9, 10 tours, at least. But 2 tours, Purple Heart, he's an awesome officer, a real American hero. Honestly. I don't blame you for not spending more than a few hours in that country, Mr. Kidder. I hear so many terrible things about that part of the world, too. Good thing you're brave. I mean, some Marines spent several tours in Iraq fighting for years, but not you. You're a real American hero, Mr. Kidder. And now for something completely different. On the homeopathic front, 27 years ago, the Food and Drug Administration resolved not to demand homeopathic medicine be held to the same standards of approval process as drug companies who want to sell medicinal treatments. The agency's stance on homeopathic treatments was to allow these drugs to come to the market without pre-market approval. That's another way of saying fast track. This was largely based on a document produced over 215 years ago. Like we haven't had any advances in science, right? Or medicine. This document is called the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia, which listed various substances as legitimate. Based on what? Based on a lot of mythology, snake oil salesmen, and fear-mongering tactics. The FDA has basically allowed the sale of any product listed on this document as protected by the homeopathic industry and relieved of any pre-approval from the federal government. In 2015, this all might change. The